course on personal protection. The information herein will help you develop knowledge, skills, and attitudes essential to keeping your home safe. We will learn the proper use of a firearm as a last resort in protecting you and your family. As we go through our daily lives, we're often unaware of our environments. This sets the stage for becoming a victim of a violent crime. To deter such an encounter, we want to share with you the NRA's 4 levels of awareness in a neighborhood that's not much different from yours. Now, there are 4 levels of awareness used in the NRA Personal Protection Program: unaware, aware, alert, and alarm. Now, I will take you through each of these levels, starting with unaware, which is when we are most vulnerable.
Hey guys, I'm home.
You know, I'd really love Italian food, but I don't know whether I like Greek or Italian. What do you think?
Look, Coco. You're the only one that knows I'm home.
As you can see, this whole family is totally unaware of what's going on around them. Being unaware can be fatal. It can set you up for an alarming experience if the timing is such that a lawless criminal takes advantage of the moment. The second level of awareness is aware. Big Jim is aware of his surroundings and where his family members are. He is constantly surveying the area for anything out of the ordinary. The third level of awareness is alert. This is when you're alerted to something that is definitely wrong with your surroundings.
Can you get the groceries?
Sure.
There's someone in the bedroom. This is Deborah Rollins. I live at 154 Oak Street. There's someone in my house. Yes? Okay, I'll stay on the line.
I don't see anybody. I don't know where he's at.
Paul and Deborah were alerted to something. They had a predetermined plan to react to a situation like this. It is always wise to evade a confrontation with an intruder. Darkness, by its very nature, becomes a vulnerable time for the law-abiding citizen to be a target of a criminal, predator, or stalker. We never know when our surroundings will escalate to the fourth and most frightening level of awareness, alarm. Alarm is when a danger has been recognized and the threshold that was developed in the alert stage is enacted.
This is Susan Smith at 2604 Maple Street. Someone has broken into my home.
Are they in the house?
Send someone, please.
Are they in the house now?
He's upstairs now.
Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith.
Stop! Go away! I've called the police. I have a gun. If you come in, I'll shoot.
Now that you've seen the NRA's 4 levels of awareness, we will revisit them throughout this personal protection course. We will expose you to several schools of thought regarding defensive shooting techniques and the mindset needed to prevail. However, before we begin, you must weigh carefully your moral, legal, religious, and spiritual values regarding the use of a gun. Because deadly force may be necessary, you'll need to consider the following questions before incorporating a firearm into your personal protection strategy. Am I prepared to take the life of another human being to save my own or my family's? Does my religion and personal moral standards permit the taking of a life in self-defense? Am I prepared to tolerate the judgment of my family, friends, and neighbors if I must defend myself with lethal force? If all of your answers are yes, and you're forced to shoot, killing an intruder, the experience can be dreadful. Therefore, think of a firearm as being a tool of last resort. It is used only when deadly force is absolutely unavoidable. This is the time to consider your mindset when viewing your personal safety. If, for one reason or another, you are unable to avoid a confrontation, you may be injured. But you must have the determination to persevere and never give up. You must control and prevail in every life-threatening encounter. Therefore, it's very important that you take your training seriously. It's more than just learning how to shoot. It's learning what to do to avoid a confrontation. You must develop a plan of responses appropriate to the escalating situation. Now, this can be done by visualizing actions and reactions to any possible threat to your domain. Just like a fire drill, you should have a contingency plan for any aggressive intrusion into your home. To do this, walk through your home and develop a plan that includes escape and/or defense. An intruder's intentions are to violate you and your home, for there is no forgiveness on the part of a predator. Rehearsing your escape and/or defense options will give you the self-confidence needed in controlling a life-threatening encounter. Your feelings of compassion are not at issue. It's a matter of life and death, and you must prevail. You must be prepared and aware of your surroundings. This will reduce the probability of you being a victim. Now, for clarity, let's revisit the 4 levels of awareness. First, we have unaware. As you recall, this is when you're most vulnerable. You're preoccupied with other activities, and you're unaware of your surroundings. Now, this may include sleeping, working in the yard, watching TV, cooking, reading, daydreaming, or any other task requiring mental concentration. The second level of awareness is being aware. This is knowing your surroundings. For example, where are the kids playing, and is it a safe area? Are you aware of the movement and activities going on? Are you able to separate normal activities from those that are unusual? Are the doors and windows secure? Is the garage door closed? And so on. In other words, ask yourself, what if? And what could happen? It's relatively easy to operate at a condition of heightened awareness for short periods, particularly under conditions in which a threat is likely. It is much more difficult to maintain that awareness for an extended length of time in environments that seem protected or safe, such as your home or office. We must make a conscious effort to have a general awareness of the threats that may lurk in our environment. The third level of awareness is called alert. This is when a potential threat is recognized. Your senses are in a heightened state of awareness. Some examples that would elevate your awareness to alert would be a solicitor approaching, an unidentified noise, a knock at the door, one or more persons asking for assistance, or anyone you do not know regardless of what or who he or she claims to be. These are potential threats. They may or may not be real, and your action should include 2 steps. 1, formulate a hypothetical plan of action to respond to the threat. The plan could be to call the police or to evade the potential threat by means of avoidance, which is the wisest plan if practical. The plan may be to go to a safer location or to defend yourself. The plan may include more than one action, but you must have a plan of action to evade or defend. The second step is to set a threshold that will trigger your plan. Some limits may include the threat coming within a certain distance, the threat doesn't flee after being told the police are on their way, an overt expression to do harm, or the adversary brandishes a weapon. These mental boundaries should coincide with the legal boundaries if your actions involve the use of force. You should determine what your options are and what may trigger any action that escalates into a state of alarm. Because plans rarely unfold as anticipated, having a second, third, or fourth contingency plan may be the difference between life and death. You should always keep thinking and always be aware of opportunities as they present themselves. Set a limit that will initiate action. A mental boundary must be set. Once the threat crosses this boundary, action must be taken. The last level of awareness is alarm. This is when a threat is real and action must be taken. You enact your plan and continue to develop plans and thresholds to keep ahead of your attacker's actions. However, taking action doesn't necessarily mean using force. If you have the opportunity to retreat with absolute safety, do so. This is the safer option and is legally required in some jurisdictions. If you are forced to defend yourself and your family, it will most likely happen very quickly, be extremely violent, occur at arm's length, and be over in a matter of seconds. You must be in control of the situation. You must prepare yourself through training with a gun, visualization, and acting out possible scenarios. It's wise to size up everything in and around the home. Look at yourself and your surroundings from his point of view. This will identify any soft spots in your overall strategies. If you find yourself face to face with an intruder, stay as far away as possible, because the intruder has three choices here. He can run away, comply, or challenge your commands. If the intruder flees, let him go.
Stop! On the floor! Down! Down!
Sometimes when confronted, the intruder will often attempt to appeal to your good nature, to let him go, or talk softly and reasonably while approaching you. If you happen to hold him at gunpoint, do not approach or attempt to frisk. You should make the intruder lie face down, chin on the floor, legs spread apart, hands held palms up and stretched straight out from their shoulders.
Stop! On the floor!
Man, don't shoot. Don't shoot.
Down, I said down! All the way! Chin in the carpet. Spread your legs. Spread them. Palms up. Your hands, turn your hands up.
Hey!
Now stay there.
Do not hold a conversation or allow the intruder to challenge your authority. When you are speaking to him, shout your commands in a loud and assertive voice while looking mean. To help prepare yourself for such an encounter, rehearse in front of a mirror. This is often done by actors and actresses preparing for a scene in a movie to stage a sense of reality. If the intruder attempts to approach, you must defend yourself appropriately. If you apprehend an intruder and you're holding him for the police, stay alert to others that may be nearby. If possible, back up against a wall or position yourself so that you will not suffer a surprise attack. In light of the drama unfolding around you, the body responds in a number of ways to being threatened with bodily harm. The part of the brain that controls higher thought processes usually shuts down. The brain then reverts to a more primeval role in an attempt to protect the body. In addition to the tendency to initially deny that an attack is occurring, there is also an inner resistance to inflict force on another person when face to face. This is that forgiveness state of mind which puts you at risk and should be countered with, "I'm in control and I will prevail." If a situation accelerates, you must take action. Use your gun and think with minimal emotional reasoning. Your instincts to survive should be priority number one. However, be calm and don't panic. Be assertive in your position. And when alarmed with a threatening encounter, consider these responses. Fight. Fight is nothing more than taking a stance. Now, this response means using whatever force is reasonable to prevent harm when no other options are available. You need to understand the laws regarding when and to what extent force may be used for personal protection. Flight. Flight is also known as retreat. When the brain is overwhelmed by a situation it perceives as threatening, there's an inner urge to flee in order to protect the body. Fleeing or retreating with absolute safety may not always be possible. Freeze. Freeze is similar to flight. It's when you are taken by surprise and you may be incapable of any action. This may last for only a fraction of a second or may last throughout the encounter. A momentary freeze due to confusion, shock, panic, or denial of what is occurring is normal and should be expected. In this situation, think of your training and make an attempt to get a grip on the situation. Posture. Posture is combat without contact. Animals do this when they growl, bare their teeth, puff themselves up, but actually do no fighting. Humans too engage in similar behavior. Depending on the nature of the threats, adversaries may simply try to outbluster one another until one backs down or retreats. In this kind of encounter, you must project your confidence and assertiveness. The last response is submit. This is totally giving in to an adversary. There is evidence in the FBI's annual Uniformed Crime Report to support the contention that submitting to an assailant is more dangerous to the victim than fighting back. In any encounter, there is no way an individual can predict accurately his or her response to any given situation, regardless of prior experience or training. An encounter may include escalation of responses, from freeze to posture to fight. These reactions apply to the assailant as well. Just like you, he may have made several contingency plans for a confrontation before entering your home. For any life-threatening encounter, you'll experience an inordinate amount of stress. You may lose fine motor skills, which is okay, because if you are forced to use a gun, you'll only need your gross motor skills to aim and shoot you must. Not just one shot, but 2 or 3 or more. You keep shooting until the threat stops. Now, to help you think clearly during this stressful moment, you'll want to break free from what is sometimes called tunnel vision. This keeps you from being alert to any other threats lurking nearby. One way to break this tunnel vision is to shout your commands in a loud and assertive voice.
Come on, let me go.
Quiet. Be quiet. You can talk all you want when the police get here.
Please let me go.
No, quiet. Be still. Be still.
This shouting will also help you hear and see what's going on around you. Like you, the assailant may be under stress and may not hear any commands unless they are shouted. Family members and police officers responding to the scene may also be suffering from this reaction. Shouting commands not only intimidates assailants, it also helps to break through the veil of auditory exclusion. The adrenaline rush that you feel not only heightens physical senses and strengths, it also causes your muscles to tremble. This trembling can make it difficult to hold your firearm steady or to stand still. Sometimes both the assailant and the victim will perceive this shaking as fear. While fear is a part of it, trembling is a physical reaction to the overload of adrenaline the body has dumped into the system in preparation for a fight. It also causes shaking after the confrontation is over. Learning to perform under stress is very critical to prevailing in a defensive encounter. Assailants count on putting their victims under stress and count on them to fold under the pressure. On the gun range, you will have an opportunity to overcome your feelings of stress and adrenaline rush. When practicing, you should see the target as a predatory criminal. You should take an aggressive defensive stance and pretend that you're defending yourself and your family. If forced to shoot an assailant, your intent is to stop the threat using as many shots as necessary. When all is said and done, you must remember this. Many of the best laid plans can backfire. That may be the difference between life and death. So prepare and plan well. Use the most important tool that you have, your brain. Once again, be proactive by planning and thinking ahead. Using a firearm for personal protection is a right that must be exercised responsibly. Choosing a firearm for self-defense should be given a lot of thought. If you do not own a firearm, you may want to consult an NRA instructor or your nearest firearm dealer to help you get started. You do this by selecting the most powerful handgun you can consistently shoot well, and one that meets defensive standards. Now the next step is to select a handgun that fits your shooting hand. The weight and shape of the gun must be suitable for the chosen caliber in order to manage the recoil. The single most important characteristic of a personal firearm is that it must be 100% reliable. Now to be fair, let's look at some of the advantages of revolvers and semi-automatic pistols. Revolvers are simple to operate and have a greater out-of-the-box reliability. It is easy to determine whether or not revolvers are loaded. Revolvers function with a wider variety of ammunition. People with arthritis or who have limited use of their hands may find revolvers easier to operate because there is no slide to pull or levers to depress. On the other hand, semi-automatics hold more ammunition. Semi-automatics are quicker to load and reload. If the firearm jams, a semi-automatic is usually easier to clear. And to some people, a semi-automatic points more naturally, making them easier to aim. In both the revolver and the semi-automatic, the grip size of each should fit the hand comfortably, and the finger should reach the trigger with ease. Another aspect in choosing a firearm is its caliber. Most experts recommend a minimum of a .38 Special or a 9mm. The gun's sights should be fixed for dependability. Now, some sights are self-luminous for use in low-light conditions. Other factors in selecting a gun should include the finish, the manufacturer's reputation, and accessories. Now, once you've selected a gun of a given caliber, such as a 9mm, you must use ammunition of the same caliber, 9mm. But you have a choice of many types of ammunition. The most popular types are the wad cutter, the semi-wad cutter, the full metal jacket, the hollow point, the jacketed hollow point or soft point, premium defense, and frangibles. The wad cutter is inexpensive, ideal for practice, but doesn't feed well in semi-automatics. The semi-wad cutter is a more popular defensive round for revolvers. The full metal jacket feeds well in semi-automatics and reduces lead fouling of the barrel. The hollow point expands rapidly, transferring a maximum amount of energy to the target. The jacketed hollow point or soft point is gun-friendly. The copper jacket improves feeding and reduces lead fouling, while retaining the advantages of the hollow point soft point design. There are other cartridges for consideration, such as the premium defense ammunition and the frangible cartridges. While the premium defense ammunition is designed for personal protection, the frangibles are very expensive and their effectiveness is a subject of much debate. If you want to know more about ammunition and guns, consult books and publications offering information on firearms and ammunition. Besides having a firearm in your self-defense plans, you should also include extra magazines for the semi-automatic, extra speed loaders if you have a revolver, flashlights, and a working cellular phone. By having a plan, a pistol, and being aware of your indoor and outdoor surroundings, you should feel more confident and safe from any possible harm from an intruder. Just like a golfer visiting a driving range to practice his technique, you'll need to visit the shooting range to maintain your skills. Soon you'll find practicing with your handgun an enjoyable experience. While at the range, you may want to try out some different types of handguns mentioned earlier if you do not own one. Many ranges offer guns for rent. On your first visit to the shooting range, the range safety officer will give you a range safety briefing, including the range, its layout and boundaries, while familiarizing you with its safety procedures and protocol. While on site, you'll be required to wear eye and ear protection. And remember, Never use alcohol or drugs before or while shooting. This includes prescription and over-the-counter medication, which hinder judgment, coordination, and motor skills. And at no time should your firearm be accessible to any unauthorized person. Know how to use the gun safely by reading the owner's manual, taking a gun safety course, or seeking help from a knowledgeable individual. Be sure the gun is safe to operate. If in doubt, have it inspected by a competent gunsmith. Always keep the gun unloaded with your finger off of the trigger and pointed in a safe direction until ready to use. Be sure you select the correct ammunition for your gun by comparing the markings on the firearm with the information printed on the ammunition box and the head stamp on the cartridge. Now that we've looked at selecting a firearm, its caliber, ammunition, and safety on the shooting range, it's important that you become proficient in using a firearm. To do this, you must be well grounded in its fundamentals. However, before we go into the fundamentals of shooting, let's examine which eye you'll use to aim. A simple demonstration will help you discover which eye is dominant and natural. Now first, extend both arms out in front of you, with fingers up and together so that you're looking at the back of your hands. Point your thumbs inward toward each other. Now focus on a small object at about 5 feet from you. While maintaining focus on the object, and with both eyes open, bring your hands together at arm's length in front of your face to form a small hole, about the size of a quarter. Continuing to focus on the object, which is now in the center of the hole, slowly bring your hands back to your face. The eye you're now using to look through the hole to see the object is your dominant eye. This is the eye you will use for aiming. You need to use the dominant eye because that's where you naturally point the firearm. The other eye will never allow you to quickly find the center of the target. Now, with this basic understanding of eye dominance and its relationship to firing a gun, we can look at the fundamentals of marksmanship. They are aiming. This consists of 2 elements. The first element of aiming is sight alignment. Sight alignment is when the dominant eye sees the gun's front sight placed in the middle of the rear sight, with the top of the front sight level with the top of the rear sight. When using this alignment, you'll be able to acquire the target quickly, since time isn't a luxury during a defensive encounter. The second element of aiming is sight picture. This is placing the aligned sight on the center of the target where you want the bullet to hit. Adjust the gun's sight to 0 to shoot point of aim or point of bullet impact on the target. The gun's sight should be adjusted and fixed for dependability. Remember that some sights are self-luminous for use in low light conditions. The second fundamental of marksmanship is breath control. Because of the stress induced by a defensive encounter and the speed at which it occurs, conscious control over refined breathing is not possible. You should just stop breathing and fire the shots. The third fundamental of marksmanship is hold control. The objective is to hold the body as still as possible while firing. The first step in minimizing movement is to assume a balanced, stable shooting position aligned to the target. The fourth fundamental of marksmanship is proper trigger control. Trigger control is pulling the trigger to the rear, firing the gun without disturbing sight alignment. The fifth fundamental of marksmanship is follow-through. Proper follow-through encompasses the first 4 fundamentals: aiming, breath control, hold control, and proper trigger control, to where the pistol settles back to the target for the next shot. Developing a smooth follow-through will set you up for the next shot, since multiple shots will probably be fired in a defensive encounter. To ensure consistency while developing self-defensive accuracy, you should practice shooting a sheet of typing paper. A hit anywhere on the paper is acceptable. It's recommended for defensive training that you use 2 hands when firing a handgun. This is called a 2-handed shooting grip and will ensure the control needed for defensive accuracy. To assume the grip, first place the handgun in your weak, non-firing hand. Make a Y with the thumb and fingers of your firing hand and place the gun's backstrap firmly in the web of the thumb. Close the strong hand fingers around the grip. Next, bring the non-firing hand around the front of the grip, so that the non-firing fingers overlap the firing hand fingers. The first joint of the non-firing fingers should be approximately aligned with the knuckles of the firing hand, and the non-firing thumb will lie directly forward and below the firing hand thumb. Grip the firearm with tension from both hands. Although there are many effective shooting positions for many different situations, all share a number of common characteristics or elements in defensive shooting. The basic elements of a good shooting position are consistency, balance, support, natural point of aim, and comfort. Consistency is rehearsing a specific position to deliver a fired shot with accuracy. Essentially, the idea is to develop muscle memory through rigorous practice, thus allowing you to assume a position automatically in an emergency situation. Balance provides a platform that absorbs recoil and facilitates body movement and accurate follow-up firing. For example, having your feet shoulder-width apart, head upright, and body slightly forward with an aggressive lean and the majority of the weight on the balls of the feet, you will maximize your body equilibrium and body movement. A good position also offers support to minimize gun movement while aiming. For example, a two-handed grip provides more support than a one-handed grip. A kneeling or prone position offers greater support than a standing position. And most importantly, cover or concealment objects, such as a table or bed, provide you with both stability and protection. The fourth element of a shooting position is the shooter's natural point of aim. This refers to the gun-body combination instinctively pointing the pistol. For example, you should first close your eyes and settle into your most comfortable and stable position. Secondly, open your eyes and observe where the gun's sights are pointed in relation to the target. And finally, rotate your position to center on the target. The last element in a shooting position is comfort. A proper position should be comfortable. You should feel relaxed, stress-free, and in control. Now that we've gone over the elements of your shooting position, there are two standing positions you should be aware of when holding your gun with two hands. The first is the isosceles position. In this position, which resembles an isosceles triangle, the feet are placed about shoulder width apart and square to the target. The knees are slightly bent with the weight slightly forward on the balls of the feet. The pistol is grasped in a normal two-handed grip as we demonstrated earlier, both arms extended fully forward. The elbows are straight but not locked. The head is erect, not hunched. The shoulders are at their normal height, not raised. And the firearm is raised to the level of the eyes for aiming. This position is a very natural shooting position. Now the other stance is the Weaver position. This position places the body in a rough boxer stance with the strong hand-foot rearward, the weak side shoulder angled toward the target, the knees slightly flexed, and the body weight carried slightly forward on the balls of the feet. Grasp the gun in a normal two-handed grip with the elbows bent and bringing the gun closer to the body. Applying tension between the two hands is perhaps the most functionally significant feature of the Weaver position. The strong hand is pushing forward into the weak hand, which simultaneously pulls rearward. This push-pull tension creates great stability and steadiness. The Weaver position gives considerable support to the firearm and provides better maneuverability in tight quarters. Now, you may want to practice your two-handed standing positions at home in front of a mirror without a firearm. Practice both the isosceles and the Weaver, but use the one that is most comfortable and affords fast fire recovery. Now let's put some of what we learned to use in a warm-up exercise. We will be firing a series of aim shots. This exercise will help you develop the skills necessary to deliver accurate follow-up shots. We will be using a regular sheet of typing paper placed on a piece of poster board as a target. Load 6 rounds and assume either the Weaver or isosceles position, whichever you prefer. When ready, fire one aimed shot in the center of mass. Repeat firing aim shots until all 6 rounds are fired. Load another 6 rounds. Now we will fire 2 aimed shots in fairly rapid succession, trying to keep the second shot as accurate as the first. Pause and then fire another 2 aimed shots. Pause and fire the final 2 aimed shots. When shooting, you may suffer from tunnel vision. This is when all of your visual attention is on the target at the exclusion of everything else around you. This is exacerbated in a high-stress situation. To break tunnel vision after firing, try to think clearly and be alert for additional unseen attackers. For example, you should lower the handgun to a ready position and look at the area to the left and to the right of the target. Listen for sounds behind you and around you. For safety purposes on the range, you must be careful not to turn too far when looking left or right. At home, without a firearm, practice the ready position. Look to the left and right. Do a 360-degree turn visual scan to search for additional threats. The entire torso moves with the head, so your eyes and the gun's muzzle track as a unit. The gun is pointed in the direction of whatever you're looking at. In a close-range defensive encounter, you may not have the time to acquire perfect sight alignment. While accuracy is important, it is also important to deliver effective shots into the target as rapidly as your ability allows. Now, this is referred to as a flash sight picture. In this technique, the shot is fired as soon as the front sight is roughly lined up somewhere within the rear sight notch. The front sight blade may be slightly off to the right or left, or may be slightly higher or lower. As long as it is visible somewhere in the rear sight notch, your shot will fall within the typing paper at 7 yards. You should be able to acquire this flash sight picture within a fraction of a second of bringing the sights onto the target at close range. That is, 21 feet or less. You simply compress the fundamentals of marksmanship down to a fraction of a second, and due to the short distance to the target, we allow for more deviation in the sight alignment. Now, to understand the importance of deviation in personal protection, let's look at what we now refer to as sight deviation. That is, the relationship between the distance to and the size of the target as it relates to sight alignment and sight picture. The idea is to shoot as long as the front sight is somewhere in the rear sight notch. To help you increase your speed and confidence, let's examine your sight deviation. We will be shooting at the same 8.5 by 11-inch piece of paper at a distance of 5 yards. I will aim at the middle of the target and fire 2 shot groups, modifying my sight alignment by moving the front sight to the top, the bottom, the right and left side of the rear sight notch. Okay, let's look at the target area up close. Notice that all of the shots are on the paper. As long as the front sight is somewhere in the rear sight notch, you will hit the target. Note, however, the shot spread depends on the width of the front sight in relation to the width of the rear sight and the distance to the target. Okay, now let's move to 7 yards and fire 2 more 2-shot groups. I will modify my sight alignment by moving the front sight to the top, bottom, the right and the left side of the rear sight notches before. Notice how the spread is more noticeable when the distance was increased. The effect will be more apparent as the distance is increased or if the gun has a larger rear sight or a smaller front sight. Okay, now let's go back to 9 yards and fire 2 more 2-shot groups. I will modify the sight alignment by moving the front sight to the top, bottom, the right, and the left side of the rear sight notch. Now once again, notice how the spread is more conspicuous when distance and sight alignment are modified. The target area shows that you can shoot center of mass and hit the target as long as you can see the front sight in the notch. Another effective means to hitting your target is using accelerated shots. This is similar to aimed shots. Instead of using a refined sight picture for each shot, a flash sight picture is used. In other words, as soon as the front sight is lined up anywhere within the rear sight, you should fire. Now in practicing, use the flash sight picture technique for the first shot. Follow up with a second shot the instant you recover back onto your target. If your practice is in concert with other students, you'll notice a difference in the speed at which everyone fires accelerated shots. This is due to individual ability and different recoil characteristics of various guns. Now these demonstrations will help you determine the maximum effective distance at which you can successfully use sight deviation with your particular firearm. The horizontal and vertical spread should not exceed the desired size of your center of mass aiming area. If the hits fall off of the aiming area, you must slow down and return to the traditional aimed shooting technique. Spend time practicing with your pistol at varying distances until you have refined the basic techniques of sight alignment, sight deviation, and traditional sight alignment. Now this type of practice may save your life. As important as accurate shooting is, it's more important not to get shot. So let's look at our next area of defensive handgun skills, cover and concealment. Now what is cover? Well, cover is anything that will protect all or part of the body from incoming fire. What is concealment? It is anything that hides all or part of the body from observation. It differs from cover in that it will not stop incoming fire. Cover can reduce the risk of injury. Concealment can give you the time to think things through and develop alternative plans to escape or shoot. It may certainly give you time to load, clear a firearm stoppage, and/or use a cell phone. Cover or concealment should be sought whenever possible. You should have in your head objects in the home that provide both. You need to be aware that concealment also includes family members using concealment to hide from an attacker and the neighbor out of your sight in the next apartment. If you shoot at the attacker and miss, or if the bullet overpenetrates, an innocent person concealed from your view may be hit. Now let's look at some common household objects that may provide cover or concealment. Doors. Steel is much better than solid wooden doors. Interior doors provide the least amount of cover. Now, on the other hand, it does offer concealment. The couch, reading chair, or dining room table will provide concealment. However, depending on their construction and other factors, they may provide little cover. Now, your major appliances, such as your refrigerator or washer and dryer, will provide you with a limited amount of protection. Your bookcase and other furniture items may provide both cover and concealment depending upon construction and the angle at which the shot hits. A standard mattress will provide only limited cover depending upon the angle at which it is hit. A waterbed mattress may provide cover for a limited number of rounds until the water runs out. As you can see, there is ample concealment in most homes, but very little cover. The best defense is walking through your home and acting out several scenarios for defensive encounters. This could be a real-life situation. Know locations to hide, using household items for cover and concealment. Practice a hiding exercise. Think of your home as a barricade to the enemy. You should also practice the technique of leaning out from cover. Choose cover and, without a gun, using the two-handed shooting grip, pretend to fire from several positions and angles. Be sure to lean out just enough to acquire the target. Don't expose yourself to the artificial intruder. Kneeling using cover and concealment offers the assailant a smaller target. It's quick to get in and out of and more stable than standing. It also makes it easier to use low cover. In other words, it offers another measure of safety when under fire. Canting is another technique using cover. This is when the gun's muzzle is clear of the cover. Canting allows you to keep more of your body behind the cover. Depending upon the object being used as cover, serious injury may result if you fire into the cover directly in front of you. Do not rest the side of the handgun against the cover. This could impede the operation of the slide of the semi-automatic or the rotation of the revolver cylinder. When firing a semi-automatic from the left side of cover, cant the pistol to prevent ejected casings from bouncing back into the ejection port and jamming the pistol. Now, if you choose to practice canting with live ammunition at the range, you must consult with your range safety officer for correct operation and safety. Now, at times, all this may seem like games. Yes, but in games, we learn without undue stress. We strengthen and hone our skills. And finally, we become confident in responding to a real-life threat. It's been said, we prepare for war to maintain peace. In our endeavor to maintain peace and tranquility, laws have been legislated to govern our social order and way of living during these tumultuous times. There are over 20,000 local, state, and federal laws pertaining to the ownership, use, transfer, and transportation of firearms. Therefore, it's impossible to cover them all. As an owner of a firearm, you must be familiar with the laws governing the type of firearms you own in your area. Most jurisdictions treat all fatal shootings as a possible criminal act and will investigate accordingly. You should know that law-abiding citizens who shoot an attacker in self-defense may be arrested and investigated, but not necessarily prosecuted. However, they may be subject to civil action by the assailant and/or his heirs. On the other hand, there is no legal action that would bring you back to life if the assailant has his way. Anyone involved in a shooting will have experienced a very stressful event and will probably not be thinking clearly. It is best to consult with an attorney so that your rights are protected and you can give a statement with a clear mind. No one is guaranteed 24 hours of personal protection by law enforcement. With crime in the streets and back alleys, it stands to reason that the police are unable to provide total home security. But the Constitution gives us the means to protect ourselves through the Second Amendment. Unfortunately, the images we project are often a primary factor in whether or not we're targeted as a victim. The way in which we carry ourselves can either attract or deter an attacker. Look like a sheep, and you'll be eaten by wolves. You should carry yourself erect, chin up and shoulders back. You should walk with confidence and with a purpose. When approached, look at the person squarely in the eye for a moment and then scan the area for possible dangers. This isn't a good time to be an ostrich. Now, yes, you will probably feel nervous or scared, and that's normal. But you should control these feelings and not let them show. Remember, you are in control of your environment, your household, and your property, no one else. Now, in reality, no home can be made crime-proof, but it can be made difficult to break into by making it less attractive to the criminal. To help you overcome a possible threat of entry, let's look at some ways to secure your home. Keep shrubs pruned below the window and cut low-hanging branches from trees to eliminate hiding places. Consider planting thorny shrubs or other hostile plants at windows. Remove all remote garage door openers from parked vehicles and keep the garage door closed when you're not around. Periodically, change the access code to your garage door and home. Avoid house designs that have recessed hiding places. Don't store ladders and tools outside that could be used to gain entry. Keep outside lighting well maintained. When traveling, have a trusted neighbor collect the mail and newspaper, cut the grass, reposition drapes, and park or move cars in and out of the driveway. When away, use timers to turn lights off and on. If you are in areas subject to snow, make arrangements to have the snow shoveled and to make tracks in the snow as if someone were home. Do not reveal travel plans to those with no need to know. Tell the kids, if you have any, not to talk about it. They often tell friends who tell friends. Do not let strangers into the home for any reason. If they want to make a call, offer to do it for them. Do not let them in. Ask repairmen and utility workers to show photo IDs. Inside your home, don't place valuable articles where they can be seen from outside. Install steel doors and frames with live and deadbolt locks. Keep doors locked at all times. Consider installing a monitored security system. Pin ground floor windows so that they cannot be opened more than 6 inches. But be aware that this cuts off crime and fire escape routes also. Store firearms out of sight, not on wall-mounted racks or in glass cases. If you don't have a dog, place a large chewed-up dog food bowl and a large mangled chew toy where a potential intruder could see it. If you have a small dog, use an oversized food bowl and a large chew toy. Know your home in darkness. Know where the natural shadows and hiding places are. Prepare a safe room and think of it as your fortress. This is usually the master bedroom. The door should be solid with a deadbolt. It should also have 1 or more windows for communicating with the police or escape. If you have a 2-story home, you should have a fire escape type ladder. Have a cell phone or phone system with a line that's protected from being cut. Have a flashlight with fresh batteries. A firearm with plenty of ammunition. Know your cover and concealment. And have extra keys attached to a glow stick for the police. You can throw these out the window when they arrive. Now let's look at emergency plans for responding to a possible break-in. This is similar to planning for a house fire and conducting a fire drill. First, the entire family should retreat to a safe room if possible. If not, each member should have a designated safe spot in the home to hide. Under no circumstances should you do a search for a suspected intruder. The potential for being ambushed is extremely high, even for a trained professional. Let the intruder do the searching. While you are locked in the safe room, retrieve your firearm from a safe place, have your cell phone and flashlight ready, and then listen. If no more noise is heard, wait for at least 15 minutes. Don't come out too soon. If anything sounds suspicious, call 911 immediately. When you call 911, never hang up. If the intruder approaches, put the phone down while connected to the dispatcher and be prepared to shoot. The call will be recorded and probably used for legal defense later. If the intruder is in your home and approaching you, simply do what Susan did.
Stop! Go away! I've called the police. I have a gun. If you come in, I'll shoot.
When the police arrive, put your gun down and stay where you are, because the police won't know you from the burglar. The dispatcher is your only link between the officers and you. Whatever you do, don't appear at the window with a gun. Tell the police where the intruder might be. If the police are using a police dog, it will go in first. Be sure to let the police know through the dispatcher where the family members of the household are hiding. In doing so, you can prevent injury. If you or any family member confronts the dog, don't move. Wait and identify yourself. When greeting the police, they are likely to treat you as a suspect until your identity is known. Establish verbal contact, move slowly, and follow directions. Be patient. The police don't know you or your surroundings. They are pumped up for an armed encounter. You may be treated forcibly or with skepticism until you and/or your family members are identified. Remember, it is your right to have legal representation during any questioning. After prevailing in a violent encounter, you may experience elation or revulsion, even remorse. You may even experience post-traumatic stress syndrome. You survived the encounter and prevailed. And as with any traumatic experience in life, you must put the encounter in its proper place and move on. However, you should not suppress your feelings about what has occurred, nor should you boast. If you feel the need, contact your clergy, a trusted friend, and/or spouse. It is important in the aftermath to remember that you are a good person and it is not your fault. Nonetheless, you should not speak with anyone about the incident without the approval of your attorney. To many Americans, firearms are only seen as weapons. This isn't the case. A firearm can be a weapon, just as a kitchen knife, baseball bat, or most any other object. A firearm only becomes a weapon when it is used as a weapon. To most Americans, firearms are recreational equipment, like golf clubs or tennis rackets. Millions of Americans participate in recreational shooting events